We got another question. Pretty excited about it. What's the deal with home inspections? Do I need one? What is it? Does it affect the value of my home? Bob Wright, Bob the Builder. Yeah, well, Bob, so I've got a, what's the deal with my home inspection? Let's answer, it's like 3 questions. So what's the deal with my home inspection? You need to do a home inspection. Do I need one? Yes, you need one. What is it? Well, basically a home inspection is what protects you when you're buying a house. So it's kind of important. It's one of many contingencies that you will use during that process of purchasing and during the contract. So it's one thing that's honestly probably one of the most important pieces of your contract. So I got a great home inspector. I'd really like to go ask him and kind of talk to him about it, see what his thoughts are. My man! What's up, brother?
Another day.
Ultimately, thanks for meeting us out here. I know that you do a lot of inspections, and I figured you'd be the best one. I use you on all my home inspections. So essentially what we're doing is, I got a question that came in from Bob the Builder. Okay. He basically said, why do a home inspection? What is a home inspection? Basically every question that anybody would normally ask when they're purchasing a home. So I always say, look, what's better than actually getting a visual? So I wanted to follow you along on a home inspection. Okay. Essentially, I want you to just do your thing, and I'm just gonna follow you through.
All right, so the electrical panel, this is where I always like to start when I come inside, and we always just like to look to make sure, you know, all the wires are appropriately sized with their breakers. We like to look at the main service entrance line that comes into the main. I mean, this is where potential fire hazards can be. You know, you see inside the box. We would check to make sure it wasn't too crowded. Sometimes if there again, older houses, you see this a lot when they've added electrical components to the house over time. These boxes will get overcrowded and those wires just can't breathe, and then you start to get overheating and things like that. So here in the kitchen, checking out the GFCI that should be protecting all the outlets above the countertop. If you can see here, this one is faulty. So it is wired correctly. It means the ground, the neutral, and the hot, they're all where they should be, but it's a faulty outlet in the sense is I can't reset it or anything like that. So what you would see in my report is, there again, I would recommend an electrician come out here, change out this outlet. You can always put your clients at ease. You know, we're talking about a $5 outlet here.
Okay, so what you're saying is you recommend that be changed?
Absolutely.
It's a quick, easy fix.
And then just make sure the electrician checks to ensure that these are all tied in.
That each one of the outlets are all tied in?
Tied in and protected by this GFCI here.
Gotcha.
There again, I'm not tripping it at that outlet there, so currently it's not being protected.
Gotcha.
But it may be simply due to this being faulty and not being able to trip.
Perfect. So it's something simple that they could just change for a $5 fix.
Absolutely. All right. So coming into the living room, you know, we start to move into the basic components of the house. We'll always still check the outlets to make sure every room's wired correctly.
Gotcha.
This room in particular has a fireplace, so we would like to, you know, pull off the screen. You know, look up in and make sure the damper is functioning correctly. Sometimes in these masonry fireboxes, you'll see cracking. So we take a flashlight and shine it through there to make sure there's none. But we're good here. You can see at one point it was wired for gas. That's no longer the case.
Gotcha.
And then, yeah, it does have a damper. So yeah, I would test that. I'm not gonna do it today because it can get pretty dirty.
Oh, you want me to get up in there?
Yeah, if you wanted to see it, it's up in the air.
So is the damper the thing that you can shut?
Yeah, absolutely. So
what does that do exactly?
It's really to keep, so when it gets cold outside, you don't want to lose efficiency in the house.
Cold air coming in when we're got it.
Exactly. So yeah, you open it when you're using the fireplace and you shut it when you're not. Perfect. But with chimneys, there's just a lot I can't see and never will be able to see, and you'll see a lot of times. I just go ahead and recommend a specialist in that area come and give you the okay. Okay. Because they'll be able to snake it up and see inside the flue and things like that. When I come into the bathroom, I normally look, obviously you're going to check the fixtures here. You're going to make sure there's no leaks underneath. And I call it the toilet straddle.
Okay.
You always give it a nice shake, and this one's loose. So yeah, you would.
So what would you recommend if the toilet's
It's
loose?
simply just tightening this back to the ground, make sure it's secure.
Put the bolts on the back?
Yeah, I mean, so you would pull these caps off and tighten them on the bolts here. But there's a waistline connected to it, and that's why you just don't want that thing moving around because you can.
I always wondered that because that happens a lot. I see that on a home inspection a lot.
Yeah.
And it's normal. Like I get it. You're up and down. I get that. And typically your toilet ends up shaking just a little bit. But essentially what you're saying is make sure that you tighten it down because that's something that you're going to check. But because the waistline's attached to it, you don't want a big leak happening.
Correct. And same thing with the supply line. I mean, it doesn't take much for that thing to just slide, and you next thing you know, you either have broken the waistline and you'll never see it, or you somehow managed to snap a supply line. And
it's a lot bigger deal than you think.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, you want to make sure these things are secure for sure. The last thing I would always check is if for some reason I got suspicion that there may have been a prior water leak, I'll take a moisture reader and read the ground.
What's a moisture reader?
It just tells me.
Reads moisture?
Yeah, if you would want to get an area in the room that you know there's no chance that water's affected, so you have kind of like your normal humidity. You know what the nominal reading for this house should be because every house is going to have some kind of humidity factor in it.
Naturally.
But then if you go to where you think there may be a wet area, it'll ping out and it'll tell me it's wet.
Wow.
And then the last thing, just to make sure all your wet areas are caulked.
These are
perfect. Normal use, you're going to get a little water. If you get a little water every single time in and out of the shower, over time you may start to see either rot or mold in that area.
So you definitely want to make sure that you keep that caulked.
Yeah, or sealed with grout.
Okay, yeah.
Newer, nicer homes, they don't like the exposed caulk look because it doesn't look the same.
I've noticed that, yeah.
So you can seal the grout and you can get the same effect. So we're out here on the deck, and you can see just by looking at this deck, it's been here for several years.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like it's been protected with any kind of weatherproofing coating. And what that would do is it just adds life to the deck, especially the wood deck. So yeah, I mean, you can pan this right here, and you can see,
the wood is just starting to get weathered.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to the point where it probably needs to at least be addressed with a new surface, depending on what we see underneath. If the floor joists of this thing match the same kind of wear and tear you're seeing here, then you're probably looking at replacement.
Okay. So that's something you would recommend doing, or something that you just need to be aware of or be cautious of, that a buyer who's doing a home inspection is going to notice that if you're the seller.
I mean, looking at this, you can tell, I mean, it still functions as a floor. We're not seeing anything soft today, but they should definitely budget in the future for that.
Let me ask you this. So essentially what you're saying is where it's at in its current condition, you would just say, hey, look, I think the best option would be just replacing the deck? Or is there some type of material you could put over it to make it last just a little longer, make it look a little bit more aesthetic?
You're putting on a Band-Aid of something that's going to be a problem eventually.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I feel like a lot of times that's what's good about a home inspection. So when you're doing a home inspection, you're able to point out these things that people might say, hey, look, I can walk on this deck, and to the naked eye, I'm great, this is great. But for the buyer who's buying the house, they're gonna say, like, look, I'm about to live in this thing, that's gonna be a cost to me, whether that's a cost right when I move in, or it's a cost in the next 30 to 60 days, I don't know, maybe even 6 months, but still, I see what you're saying. All right, so what's next? Where are we going?
We are outside, we've gone through the house, we've already worked all the plumbing fixtures inside the house. So now it gives us an opportunity to go underneath it, get in the crawl space to see what's going on with the plumbing under there.
Okay.
That's where we're gonna find, we're gonna get the main entrance line for the plumbing off the main of the street. We're gonna get to see that come in. And then you get to kind of go from fixture to fixture to see what's going on.
Perfect. Well, head on in and enjoy. We'll see you when you get out. What is this? Looks like I'm going in with you.
It's a Trivex here, buddy.
Okay. This is the first time I've ever been in a crawl space intentionally. Think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. Hey, Brad.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. All right, talk to me. Where are we at? What are we doing?
So the first thing you do when you come into a crawl space is I always start on the exterior walls, just to make sure, you know, there's no water lines that let me know that there may be a potential moisture issue going on under here. You can move up and then you'll start to see the sill plate. So it's basically what secures, you know, the structure to the foundation, and then you'll try and find the foundation bolts or any kind of foundation strapping just to make sure that's correctly done.
Gotcha.
But once you move on from that, then you start to go to you kind of find all your plumbing fixtures and look at those.
All right, so as far as plumbing, so a lot of, tell me if I'm wrong, but do you know many people that just go into the crawl space for fun?
No.
I'm gonna be honest, this is the first time in a very long time that I've done this. Like, so tell me, when we're down here, what are we looking for when we're talking about plumbing?
So you can see right here, so you're starting to get, anytime you get these mineral deposits on copper plumbing, it's common. You're going to see that often.
Right.
But it is an early warning sign that the pipe is starting to deteriorate in these areas.
All right, so what you're saying is, that doesn't mean they have to replace their plumbing though, right?
Correct. No. It's just an early warning sign, and it's extremely common with copper piping.
Okay.
But like I said, this one isn't terribly bad. I mean, you don't see a lot here. I've been in some where you can see it, you know.
It's like literally the whole entire thing.
Correct.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the vapor barrier. A lot of times people, I mean, there's multiple different types of vapor barrier. This is vapor barrier, correct?
Correct.
All right, so tell me why vapor barrier is a good idea. Just kind of go over this with me really quick.
Let's say if we didn't have this, what you would find is that the soil underneath it would be really moist. And that's from, you know, the barometric pressure pushing that moisture up and out of the soil, and now you're trapping it inside the crawl space. So if you look up here on the joist, if without it, you would start to see some mold forming just because it's such a
Prime spot for mold to form.
Correct. And this vapor barrier is trapping the moisture from allowing it to come up into the crawl space. So that's its main objective. All right, man. Well, that's everything here.
That's it?
Yeah.
We're good.
Yeah. There you go.
Perfect. Brother, I really appreciate you
man.
coming out and letting us crash your inspection. I think we learned a lot. Just to kind of recap and go over, obviously there's a whole lot more that goes into an inspection. That was just some of the common things that you inspect, but you inspect inside out. You inspect the roof. We didn't even get to the roof yet, and that's a big one. I think another big one is your HVAC, how you inspect that, etc. But hey, look, we'll get to that some other time. I know that we learned a lot with this, and I really appreciate you letting us come out, man.
Hey, man. It's nice to have someone on it. Usually I work alone, so I appreciate you coming, dude.
Absolutely, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, y'all take care.
See you, buddy. All right, guys, we just left the home inspection where we got to actually enjoy I'd say honestly a deep dive into what a home inspection is. We'll start with the crawl space actually, because that's probably my favorite part of the episode. Vapor barriers, super important. If you don't have one down, probably need to put one down as a seller. As a buyer, you learn, hey, we really need to do a home inspection. Why? Because it's gonna protect us and our investment. Remember the toilet, don't forget the toilet. That was a good one. Make sure that if your toilet jiggles, you need to make sure it's tightened up. So another thing is a lot of sellers, when they're selling their home, think, oh, well, if a home inspection is done on my property, I'm kind of afraid, like, what if I have a buyer come in and they do a home inspection and find something really big that's thousands of dollars? But here's the truth. You found an issue, and you can't be afraid to go down that path because they might not find that, and even if they do, at least you know what to fix now. Buyers sometimes get afraid of having a home inspection. When you're a buyer, you think, oh, well, what if the seller's not gonna fix it? But you protected yourself. It's better to get out of something that's a bad investment than jump into something that's a bad investment. Because if you do, later on you're gonna have to deal with it. So during the process of your home inspection, once you're done with the home inspection, what you're gonna get is an actual report. It's called an inspection report back from the home inspector. You're gonna freak out when you see that inspection report. Everybody does, because his job is to point out everything. But that's what I do is I go through that whole list. We then provide a proposal or a repair proposal to the seller, and after we've provided that, it's what's called a resolution period, and during that time we go back and forth, and basically that's where I do my job. We negotiate the repairs for you as the buyer, and then at that point, once we've got that situated with the seller and everybody's in agreement, we write up the repair amendment and we go on to the next step. little tips here or there, but honestly, the biggest impact you're gonna get is doing a home inspection. Have a home inspector do your home inspection. Hey guys, Derek Trainer here with Compass Real Estate. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'm just here to help you make smart moves on one of the biggest investments of your entire lives. Have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you next time.